Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you again from our digital desk. And we want to continue to keep our eye on gas prices because it impacts so many of us. And what's going on in Iran, the war, the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran is impacting a lot. A lot of it has to do with this. We're going to show you this graphic from CBS News of the Strait of Hormuz. That is that area, that shipping lane that you see there marked in the middle of the screen. It's sort of a choke point for roughly 20 to 30% of the world's oil that comes from the Persian Gulf that has to go through there. Well, it's right off the coast of Iran, and ships are just not going to pass through there with the threat of what the Iranian military could do. So let's welcome in, as we always do when we talk gas prices, Patrick De Haan. He is from Gas Buddy. That is a website that tracks gas prices and cheap gas in your area. Patrick, thanks for joining us yet again.
Thanks for having me yet again, Dan.
What's interesting is we've kind of seen gas prices stabilize. Nobody likes high gas prices. Well, I'm not going to say this is a good thing, but about the last 3-4 days, we seem to be capped at about 340, 350 a gallon for a national average. Is this a plateau? Is this a peak, or do we know?
Well, I think it's a short-term peak, but with oil prices moving up again today, it was likely that the national average would start to reaccelerate. But overnight, after WTI prices hit $115 a barrel in Sunday night trading, we've seen some words being exchanged that have caused a little bit of hope, maybe a glimmer of hope, a tinge of hope. But oil prices now falling nearly $20 a barrel from that $115 level. WTI crude oil prices have fallen back below 100. We're still up for the day, about 4.5%. WTI prices now at about $95 a barrel. So that is potentially good news. You know, we were on the fence. I was on the fence about seeing another price cycle across Ohio this week, but we still are seeing the wholesale price of gasoline up about 10 cents a gallon so far. That may be enough to cause another price cycle tomorrow or maybe even today. We'll have to see. The market continues to move in a volatile fashion, but I don't yet foresee the $4 a gallon mark is imminent. So maybe you get a bit of good news that earlier this morning it was looking like that might be a foregone conclusion. Now it's looking like markets have greatly cooled off.
Yeah, that $115 a barrel was a real shock. 116, I think it even got up to at one point when I came into work this morning to see that price. When you see oil trading at 116, there was even talk of could we see $150 a barrel? What would $150 a barrel do to gas prices here in the United States?
Well, it probably would make them dramatically rise, probably in the ballpark of record setting levels to $5, maybe slightly shorter than that. Back in 2022, we didn't see record setting prices, but we did get to $5. A lot of the reason was the refinery card back then. 2022, we were dealing with a lot lower refining capacity because some refineries had shut down during the pandemic. So it certainly wouldn't be a pretty picture. In fact, we're already dealing with diesel prices today that have jumped to an average of 462. Diesel surging 86 cents a gallon from the last week. So certainly for truckers, for industry that uses diesel fuel, this is still a very active pinch that is extremely impactful to the broader U.S. economy.
When we look at that Strait of Hormuz that I was showing people, why is that such a pivotal? I mean, it is a shipping route. It is a small area for these oil tankers, these massive ships to get through. Now that they're just not flowing through there, it looks like the U.S. military, maybe even France, and now it sounds like England, they may want to provide escorts using military to escort these through that area. Why is that such a contentious area, and why does that need to get back open?
Well, it's a contentious area because Iran is on the doorstep of the Strait of Hormuz, and a lot of that really gets extremely close to Iran's international waters. So, that is why Iran can make threats. They've already carried out attacks on some vessels, and it's a vital waterway for many Middle Eastern oil producers. The Persian Gulf, connecting to the Strait of Hormuz, allows their oil to flow out to global markets. And without the Strait of Hormuz, with it essentially being closed because of the risk of attack, We've seen 20 million barrels of oil parked every day that normally transits through there, and that is hugely problematic on the equation of things. When the global supply consumes 100 million barrels a day, to be without a fifth of that because of this blockage is extremely critical, and that's why you're seeing oil prices go up.
And in turn, our gas prices. You were going to, I asked you this question. It was unclear if the United States gets any oil that comes through the Strait of Hormuz. And you said, yes, in fact, we do.
The West Coast refineries generally can buy oil from the Middle East. We do receive some volumes from Saudi Arabia. The Saudis have different options. They have an east west pipeline. But keep in mind, it is a global economy. We can't fence ourselves off when it becomes too inconvenient. If it wasn't for the global economy, U.S. refineries would not have built refineries in the Gulf. They wouldn't have expanded. We wouldn't have pipelines. It would be a completely different world, and not necessarily for the better if the U.S. was simply insulated or fenced off from the global balance of supply and demand.
Patrick Dahan with Gas Buddy, an incredible website, especially in this time with high gas prices. Use Gas Buddy to find out maybe just a mile down the road you might have some cheaper options at gas. You don't have a crystal ball. I ask you this all the time. It is tough to tell, especially in this volatile market. You get the final word here. What should consumers expect in gas prices this week, or do we know?
Well, I'd say keep watching the Strait of Hormuz. Watch for language being exchanged potentially by Iran and other countries around Iran, whether the attacks will continue. I think here, where we are at this moment, I'm feeling a tinge of hope based on some dialogue that's happening, but that could be a false start. Based on that, oil prices going up today, they may lead gas prices to do another cycle this week. For now, I think the odds of seeing the national average hit $4 a gallon have diminished based on what I'm seeing at this moment, but that could be re-aggravated again at a moment's notice as well. So stay on top of it, and we'll be sure to be covering it right alongside you as well.
Excellent. Patrick, thanks again for the time. We value your opinion and your knowledge.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, take care. Just another chance to check in prices, oil prices over the weekend, as I'm sure you were filling up. Remember, Sundays are the good days to fill up. Early in the week are the good days to fill up. Later in the week, according to Gas Buddy, are the days you want to try and avoid. And that may hold court again this week. If we have any other breaking news, it'll be right here on our digital properties. Otherwise, look for 3.5 hours of news and first alert weather coming up on Channel 19 at 3 o'clock. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News. Have a great afternoon.